The inspirational leader takes ownership of problems. They don't try to blame other people for all the problems. They take ownership. They say, I will sort that. So my message to you is, don't be a seagull. There's a thing called seagull management, which is where you monitor, but you don't support. If you just think about monitoring and supporting, okay, with delegation, you monitor what people are doing and you give them support. So that's great. With empowerment, you don't monitor, but you are available for support. With abdication, you don't monitor or support, you're just not there. But perhaps the worst one is the seagull, and that's where you monitor, but you don't support. So seagull managers come flapping in, making lots of noise, poo all over everyone, and fly away again. And an example of this would be in that TV program, The Apprentice, which you've probably seen. So in the UK Apprentice, we have Alan Sugar. He's probably playing a part. He's probably not like that in real life, I don't know. But he's a bit of a seagull in the TV program, because he comes in and he goes, that's not very good. You made a mistake. The pricing was all wrong. You're fired. And that's what he does. So he just comes in like a seagull, poos on everyone and goes away. He's not there to support them when they're doing the task. Now, obviously, it's a TV program, and so in real life, he's probably not like that. And during the task that they're doing, there are project managers and there's the team. And the project managers always try to blame the team if it goes wrong. Oh, my team was rubbish. And the teams, of course, blame the project manager. And that's because they're all living in fear because somebody's got to be fired. And that just shows that if you have an environment where people are going to be blamed and perhaps even fired, they'll all just blame each other and nobody will take ownership of the problems. They're almost preparing who they're going to point the finger at if it goes wrong. It's almost good if they can spot someone doing something bad because they think, brilliant, if it goes wrong, I can tell them about what happened and I can avoid getting fired because I can point the finger at them. So that's a terrible way to work. Now, it's a hilarious TV program. It's fascinating to watch, but please don't base your management methods on The Apprentice because it shouldn't all be based on blame and fear and seagull. A good way to think about this is fingers. So if you say to somebody, you've done a rubbish job or you're rubbish at your job, what you're doing is you're pointing at them, but you've got 3 fingers pointing back at you. So really you should say, you're rubbish at your job. No, you shouldn't. You should just never say you're rubbish at your job because in the end, everything's management's fault. So if somebody's not doing a good job, it's management's fault. That person either hasn't been trained or they don't understand the importance of it, or you've given the job to the wrong person, or you didn't brief them properly. In the end, everything's management's fault. And I want to give you a real life example of this because one company where I worked, I was the general manager. I was the boss of the whole place. We only had about 40 people and we were making shock absorbers for cars. So every day we would make probably 20,000 shock absorbers, something like that. And that was enough to fill a small truck. And we had our own truck. So what would happen is at the end of each day, we were exhausted. We'd made 20,000 shock absorbers. The truck would arrive and we'd load them all on. And the truck driver would drive away and he would park outside his house overnight. And he'd get up really early in the morning, at 4 a.m. or something, and he would drive up the country to our customers in Sheffield or wherever they were at 8:01. He's there ready to deliver the shock absorbers to the customers in Sheffield. So he would then do his rounds, dropping off shock absorbers around the customers, and he'd come back to base in South Wales, where we were, at 4 o'clock, ready to reload and start the whole thing all over again. So that was a great little system, and it worked fine. And then one day, I came into work, 8 o'clock in the morning, at 8:01, I got a phone call from our biggest customer, and it said, this guy said to me, right, that's it, I'm never going to buy from you lot again. And I said to him, why? What's happened? And he said, well, if you don't know, you should do. And he hung up. And I was thinking, it's only 1 minute past 8. You know, he's probably had the delivery, but he can't have even opened the box by now. I went and did a bit of asking of questions around the factory, and everything we'd made the day before seemed fine. You know, all the tests looked good. We had a few samples. Everything was fine from the day before. And I was thinking, what can the problem be? And I was racking my brains all day about it until 4 o'clock when the lorry driver got back. And as soon as the lorry driver walked in, I saw the problem. Because the lorry driver was wearing a white t-shirt, and just in great big letters on his t-shirt, it just said F off. I'm not going to actually say it, but it said F off in big red capital letters. And that was all it said on his t-shirt. No wonder the customer was unhappy. So I rang the customer up and I said, the lorry driver's just got back and I can see the problem now. You obviously don't like our new uniform. And anyway, we had a bit of a laugh and I managed to sort of smooth him over. And I said, look, I'm terribly sorry. I don't know why he wore that t-shirt. It will never happen again. And he was going, well, I should hope so. But why did the lorry driver suddenly do that? And whose fault is it that the lorry driver did that? And this is the real key thing. Whose fault is it that after 10 or 15 years of perfectly normal service, he decided to wear his F-off t-shirt? And I think it's my fault. I think everything is management's fault, even which t-shirt the lorry driver chooses. And I think it was my fault for two reasons. One is we should have had a dress code. Definitely, I would say, free clothes that he wears. He should have had a nice uniform, a nice polo shirt with our logo on or whatever that he could wear when he drives. And we didn't give him that. We let him wear whatever he liked. So that was a mistake and it was wrong. But the other thing was that he didn't realize that he was important. And I was thinking, if I had done a back to the floor day, if I'd gone out driving with him, I'd have been chatting on the way up about how he's important, because he is, isn't he? He's the person that the customer sees more often than anyone else probably. So I would have told him he was important, and then when we got to the delivery at the far end, we'd have gone in and I'd have chatted to the customer a little bit. What do you think about our latest stuff? Is it good? I'd have been noticing who else they were buying stuff from. I'd have been thinking, ooh, you're getting those from our competitors. Would you like us to supply some of those? So I would have made the point to the lorry driver that he's almost a salesperson, really. He's the face of the company. And I think if he'd understood that, he wouldn't have chosen that particular t-shirt because he would have felt important. He didn't feel important. So he should have had a dress code and he should have understood his importance. And both of those were my fault. So in the end, everything's management's fault. And it's really important to understand that. So if you're the leader, if something happens, you must never just blame it on somebody else. You must think, okay, it's my fault. The question is, what must I do differently to prevent a repeat?